One of the most important things in Heroes of Might and Magic 3 is learning to use your time wisely on the adventure map. And the game tries to help you with that by displaying messages when you interact with map objects, which tell you what those map objects do. But the reality is there are a lot of things about these map objects that the game doesn't really tell you. So in this video, we're going to go over some of the weird quirks and secrets you should know for interacting with the adventure map. Some of these are deliberately kept secret by the game, and others are just unexplained mechanics, or even possibly bugs. But either way, this video is going to give you some tips you might not have picked up from just playing the game. So let's begin with one of the most famous adventure map secrets. If you visit stables on the adventure map and you have Cavaliers with you, the stable master will offer to upgrade them to champions for free. That's a saving of 200 gold per unit, in addition to potentially saving you the need to build the upgraded training grounds, which cost 10 wood and 3000 gold. Do bear in mind though that in very long and richer maps, you might still want to build the stables and the dwelling upgrade in your castle town itself, just to save having to take a detour every week to those stables. My next tip is that the bonus you receive from temples and idols of fortune is directly linked to what day of the week it is. In the case of temples, normally they give you +1 morale until your next battle, but on day 7 they'll actually give you +2 to your morale instead. Idols of fortune are similar. They can give you either +1 to your luck or morale, but the effect isn't random. If you visit on an even numbered day of the week, you'll receive +1 morale, on an odd numbered day of the week you'll receive +1 luck, and on day 7 you'll receive +1 to both. The Fountain of Fortune though is slightly different. It can give you anything from -1 luck to +3 luck, but that's determined by a dice roll at the start of the week. Whatever it gives you on day 1 of a certain week will keep being given to you until day 7. Another map object that shouldn't be considered random is the Tree of Knowledge. Trees of Knowledge will either give you a level up for free, or they'll ask for 2000 gold or 10 gems, but each Tree of Knowledge will never change what it asks for. So if you visit one and you get a level up for free, you can be assured that any other hero you send there will be given a level up for free as well. The Tree of Knowledge works by giving you the total amount of experience needed to get from your current level to your next level, regardless of how close you are to your next level up. So if you're most of the way there already, you can rest assured that any experience gained will flow into the next level as well. Naturally, that does mean the total amount of experience gained increases as your hero's level does, so if you know for a fact that you'll cross paths with that Tree of Knowledge again, you might want to consider whether to save it for later when leveling up becomes more difficult. Next tip, the exchange rate at trading posts is equivalent to 5 marketplaces. So if you have more than 5 marketplaces across your empire, you'll actually get a better deal in your towns than you will from traveling to a trading post. Libraries of Enlightenment usually work by giving you a +2 to all 4 primary skills when you visit with a hero level 10 or above, but if your hero has the diplomacy skill, they'll actually give you the boost much sooner. With basic diplomacy, you can get the boost at level 8, at advanced level you'll get it at level 6, and at expert you can get it at level 4, which means you're pretty much guaranteed access by the time you reach expert diplomacy. Next up, witch huts will teach you a random skill, but there are actually some exceptions. Unless specifically enabled by the map creator, they will never teach you either leadership or necromancy. Another tip is that if you play on the Horn of the Abyss mod, you will have the opportunity to turn down whatever witch huts offer you, but if you play on the original game, i.e. Shadow of Death, you might want to send a backup hero there first, just to check the skill they're offering is actually worth picking up. Similar to witch huts, the resources offered to you by windmills will be determined at random, but there are some exceptions. You'll probably be aware that windmills never give you gold, but you might not have noticed that they'll actually never give you wood either. Also, the majority of you will know this already, but watermills will only give you 500 gold on the first week of the map, and they'll give you 1000 gold every week from week 2 onwards. Next up, one of the most powerful map objects in Heroes 3 is the Magic Spring, which will immediately refill and then double your spell points once per week. What makes it even more useful is that it actually works as 2 separate springs. You can visit magic springs on either the left side or the right side, and if you've used one side of the magic spring on a certain week, you can still refill and double your spell points again by visiting the other side instead. My next tip is that refugee camps will enable you to recruit a random type of creature which rerolls every week, with the numbers being equal to the basic growth rate of that unit. You could be offered anything from goblins to archangels, which means refugee camps can be game-changing in the early game. But there are a few neutral creatures which can't be found at camps, including sharpshooters, enchanters, and the powerful neutral dragons such as fairy dragons or azure dragons. Next up, there are 2 apparently low-value objects that can actually be game-breaking, namely the Warrior's Tomb and the Shipwreck Survivor. Both of these objects have a 5% chance of immediately giving the first visiting hero a relic level artifact. Because the artifact you'll be given is fairly inconsequential in the vast majority of cases, neither of these objects are typically heavily guarded, meaning you can sometimes get given that relic artifact right near the start of the game, Relic artifacts are the best non-combination artifacts. They include things like the Helm of Heavenly Enlightenment for +6 to all primary skills, Angel Wings for permanent flying, and the Tome of Earth Magic for immediate access to spells like Town Portal and Implosion. Those of you who've seen my playthrough of the map Dungeon Keeper might remember that I actually received a Tome of Earth Magic right at the start of the map from a Warrior's Tomb, which made it nearly impossible to lose. However, there are some differences between Shipwreck survivors and Warrior's Tombs. Shipwreck survivors are more likely to give you a treasure class artifact, which is the lowest class of artifact. That's going to be the outcome 55% of the time, whereas the Warrior's Tomb is more evenly balanced and only has a 30% chance of giving you a treasure artifact. With that said, the Shipwreck survivor is more generous at the other end of the scale as well. There's a 20% chance it will give you a major class artifact, whereas the Warrior's Tomb only has a 15% chance of doing so. While not quite as much of a jackpot, major artifacts can still make a massive difference in the early game. For example, the Cape of Velocity for +2 speed to all your creatures, or the Vial of Lifeblood, which will give each of your creatures +2 hit points. Finally, Warrior's Tombs will give you -3 morale until your next battle, so it's usually worth visiting them with one of your backup heroes. If the artifact is already claimed by another player, you'll still get the -3 morale. Shipwreck survivors, on the other hand, will disappear from the map once rescued. Another water object worth understanding is of course the Whirlpool, which is similar to a Monolith with the unfortunate side effect of killing your creatures. The Whirlpool works by killing 50% of the creatures in whichever of your creature stacks has the lowest amount of combined hit points. What that means is you can split off a 1 stack of your lowest HP creature to ensure you only lose that one individual weak unit. Also, a scout hero with only one surviving creature will not lose it to the Whirlpool. While monoliths won't kill your creatures directly, one-way monoliths can be annoying by causing your heroes to become trapped somewhere undesirable, and that's especially annoying when a one-way monolith has more than one potential exit. However, if you leave one of your heroes on an exit, the one-way monolith will have no choice but to send any subsequent heroes to an unoccupied exit instead. Next up, lighthouses work by giving extra movement on water to all allied heroes, including other players, and they actually are stackable, so you can move even further by claiming multiple lighthouses at once. However, if you don't play with mods, it's worth being aware that lighthouses were bugged in the original game, causing all players on the map to benefit from the extra movement, including your enemies. Speaking of mods, the Trailblazer in Horn of the Abyss works by reducing your movement penalty on your current hero across wasteland terrain to 75% for the rest of the week. By way of comparison, moving across grassland incurs the default 100% penalty. A 75% penalty is actually the same penalty you get from travelling across dirt roads, so the Trailblazer will enable you to cover ground on wasteland terrain extremely quickly. Next tip is that if you attack a hero on a mine, i.e. a gold mine, crystal mine, or abandoned mine, that battle will always take place on subterranean terrain. That's potentially useful to know if you're about to be attacked, as you can deny your attacker any +1 bonus to attack, defense, and speed they might be receiving from their native terrain. And if you have dungeon creatures in your force, you can actually take the terrain bonus for yourself. A related tip is that if you're stood on a mine or any other production object such as a sawmill, you can press the spacebar to leave defenders at that location. Usually that isn't worth doing, but you can potentially leave your slowest creatures behind to get more movement points at the start of the next turn. However, you will need to remember to pick them up again at the start of the next turn, or you might end up leaving half your army behind. Another movement related tip is that map objects which give you a temporary boost to your movement points can usually be reused multiple times, as long as you complete a battle between each visit. For example, you can visit an oasis for extra movement points, take a battle next to that oasis, and then revisit the oasis on the same turn for even more movement points. Examples of map objects this tip applies to are oases, watering holes, rally points, fountains of youth, and the mineral spring added by Horn of the Abyss. Finally, guards of external creature dwellings all follow a similar pattern. Dwellings for tier 1 creatures will give you a week's worth of those units for free, and the next 3 tiers up to tier 4 will enable you to buy a week's worth of those units at normal prices, and you won't have to fight any guards. But from tier 5 to tier 7 you will have to face guards of the dwelling's unit type, counting down in multiples of 3, before you're allowed to recruit those units. So if we take Castle for example, monks are their tier 5 creatures, so you can expect an external monastery to be guarded by 9 monks. Cavaliers are their tier 6, so external training grounds will be guarded by 6 Cavaliers, and Angels are their tier 7, so external portals of glory will be guarded by 3 Angels. Guards always spawn as 1 stack in the middle of the opposite side of the battlefield, so the creatures in the middle slot of your army are going to be the ones that spawn closest to them. In addition, guards will only regenerate at the start of the week. So for example, if an enemy player steals an external magic forest from you and you go to take it back immediately, you won't have to fight 3 fairy dragon guards in order to take it back, as long as you're still in the same week as when your enemy took it. There are 1 or 2 exceptions when it comes to external dwellings. For example, golem factories look like tier 3 external dwellings, but they're actually guarded by 4 different types of golems, each of which you can recruit afterwards if you win. There are probably some other things I can mention, but this should cover most of the things I haven't covered in other tip videos, and you can of course check out those videos if this one helped you out. If you have learned something new, please do leave a like to help the video reach more people, and you can of course subscribe if you're interested in seeing more strategy game content from me. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.